What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of the podcast. I believe this is the third one under the title of Jake Fine Podcast. And today we're talking to, what's his name? Today we're talking to Kidron Cannon, a documentary filmmaker and branded content filmmaker from Colorado who has a documentary series on his YouTube channel with 27,000 subscribers called Homegrown Fighter, and he has another one called Front Range Fighter, where he follows a couple MMA gyms in the Colorado area, which is a popping place for professional mixed martial artists, and he just makes these amazing, well put together, high quality episodes about these fighters and shines a spotlight on them and kind of has a great series going. So I reached out, thought it'd be cool if I could talk to him because I'm also in the MMA documentary business and wanted to just connect and hopefully share some value. We kind of got into entrepreneurship as well as why documentary filmmaking is not as popular as narrative filmmaking for in terms of people who aspire to do said things. And we kind of dove into that topic a little bit. We dove into good cameras. So if you're looking for good documentary cameras, we dig into that in this episode. And there's just a bunch more. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. Thank you guys for tuning in. And yeah, I'll let it ride.
Nice to have you on. I'd like to let you introduce yourself. Tell us about what you do. And yeah, go ahead.
All right, cool. Yeah, thanks for having me. My name's Kidron Cannon. Everywhere online, just type KidCannonTV, you'll find me. I've been filmmaking for about 11 or 12 years and been doing really documentary style focus for about 7 or 8 years. I kind of got started on that with a buddy of mine. His name's Bryce Mitchell. He's a featherweight in the UFC. We lived together in college, best friends. I just kind of started documenting his career, and I've just been following him ever since. That's kind of led me into all the different MMA documentary work that I do.
I got you. Yeah. So what attracted you to documentary as opposed to narrative?
Yeah, I've never had any desire to do narrative because I just I don't have a vision for what a scene should look like and kind of piecing it all together in my head beforehand. I am much better at capturing what's going on. I'm much better at when there's a moment actually happening, figuring out in the moment how to tell it and how to capture it. That's always kind of just been my strength, and so naturally that just kind of led to doing documentary stuff as opposed to narrative. And so yeah, filming with Bryce was really fun, and then I love MMA, and so it was a good way for me to kind of stay connected to the MMA community and get to know a lot of MMA guys, just kind of documenting their stuff, and that's why I've kind of stuck with it.
I feel that. Yeah. The first documentary that made me want to make a documentary was the Conor McGregor one.
Yeah.
On Netflix. Have you seen that?
I have, yeah. Man, when you said that, it reminded me, I think the first one that made me want to was back when there's one called Fightville on Dustin Poirier, way back, 08, 09, something like that. And wow. Yeah, it was a very similar thing. It was just kind of following a guy's story through, but yeah, the Conor McGregor one was good. And that actually it's kind of inspired me. I plan to do one like that on Bryce one day because I have footage of him since 2014, just his whole career. Man. So I want to do that with him when he wins the title. Yeah.
That is incredible that you have all this verite style footage of him.
For sure. Yeah.
Are you big into watching documentary as much as you are making it?
100%. If you look at my Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon, any of them, I don't really have too many shows, narrative shows and stuff or movies that I watch. They're pretty much just all documentary. That's just the style I enjoy. I think I get it from my dad because he's always said real life is way more interesting than fiction. So until I've seen all the interesting real life stuff, then I'll start watching the fiction. So that's kind of how I am too. I mean, I like The Office and Friends, a few things like that, Breaking Bad, but for the most part, it's all documentary stuff that I watch.
Yeah, I feel that. I'm actually big into YouTube documentary kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of what you do.
Okay, cool.
Most of the stuff I watch is on YouTube.
Okay.
and then like I'm trying to force myself to watch more like corporate, like Netflix stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like there's probably stuff to learn there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
How did you? Well, you said you were roommates with Bryce and you just started recording him, but was there a prior inclination before then to MMA?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been an MMA fan since about 2007, 2008, like when Chuck Liddell, Vanderlei Silva was the first fight, way, way, way back in the day. But I've always really enjoyed it, and I've always liked watching all of the content leading up to fights, like behind the fight, like, and those are all documentary style for the most part. Like they are produced, but like, and so I've always enjoyed that. So it was just natural. Like, I was in college, I was watching tons of MMA stuff, and I just met Bryce in a class, and I was like, man, I want to film something with MMA. So I was like, hey, I'm just going to film you and do a little documentary. He's like, okay, cool. We weren't roommates yet at the time, but after I did that, the next semester we became roommates. But yeah, I've always loved MMA, and I've always loved documentary style content. So it was just kind of natural.
That is sick. Do you do any MMA yourself?
I've never fought. I'm way too big of a wimp. I've trained. So 3-4 years ago, I got in with a smaller organization, V3 Fights in Tennessee. Bryce was fighting for them at the time, and so when I was filming MMA there, I like wanted to be able to better anticipate positioning and like especially jiu-jitsu. Like I liked grappling, but I had never like trained it, and so I started training jiu-jitsu. I trained for a couple of years just so when I was filming MMA, I would have a better understanding of what I was seeing and where a position might go, so I could anticipate camera movements, things like that. But I didn't stick with it. I just kind of did it on and off until I kind of went from like a 0 to like a 2, on like my knowledge, just enough to like get me by a little bit. But yeah, no, I've never trained or fought MMA, but I'm in the gyms all the time, so I feel like half the time I'm like in there, like seeing part of the training, but I've never trained it myself.
Yeah, I had a similar idea. There's like a judo gym.
Nice.
That I actually, I'm like affiliated with a gym that's more focused on like more typical athletics like basketball and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like one of the bigger training gyms in Chicago.
Okay.
And I work like, it's one of my biggest clients, or it is my biggest client. And one of the trainers there is like a black belt in Taekwondo, judo, and he's like brown belt in karate or something. Like something
Okay.
like he's really high up in like 3 different of the martial arts. And I was thinking about training there just so I could like understand the plight of like what it's like to train, what that feels like, what they go through.
Right.
Because like, kind of like you, now I have this connection to law, and then I have this connection to this gym that I was just telling you about. And it's like, I could see myself ending up in that world. If like, it could easily end up that way. So I was just thinking that would be cool.
Yeah.
What does your process look like creatively outside of like training and stuff?
You mean like for when I'm trying to produce like a docuseries?
Yeah.
So, well, I'll just kind of back up like a couple months. I just started one, a new one. So I've had Homegrown Fighter for 2 or 3 years with Bryce, but we moved to Colorado at the end of 2020, and I started Front Range Fighter. So I knew when we moved out here, there was, dozens and dozens of top level fighters, like world champions, like everybody's out here. And so I knew I wanted to film with them. So I decided to do a new docuseries kind of based in the area. So I started the process by reaching out first to coaches at gyms, because you can't just walk in off the street really and start filming with anyone. Like I can't just walk into Elevation and be like, hey, Justin Gaethje, let's film something. I reached out to coaches and kind of started those relationships, let them know like, hey, I want to do a docuseries, like telling the story of Colorado MMA and like how important it is to the sport. And all the coaches were like, sweet, yeah, sounds good. So then after that, it's talking to fighters. And the way I do it is like I look ahead about a month or so. It's like, who has a fight about a month from now? I want to try and work with them the next couple of weeks so that before their fight, I can put something out. So like Drew Dober was one of the first guys, Alexander Hernandez, Dustin Jacoby, and Curtis Blades had a fight too. So like I got content with as many of them as I could, and I was like, hey, I like told them the same thing. I want to tell a story of Colorado MMA, and you're a big part of it. So I just want to do like an episode with you. And so that what that looked like was generally meeting them at the gym for a training session. That's generally the easiest way to kind of get in with a guy, because it's not like I'm not coming into their house or something personal. It's like I'm meeting in a public place at the gym. It's open. There's other people there, and just kind of get familiar with them filming that way. And then after that, it's like, hey, you know, are you doing anything fun this weekend? Are you going on a hike? Or are you going to the lake? Like, I want to show a little bit of your lifestyle too, if that's cool. And in those, you know, if they're open to it, then I get to tag along. And that's usually where you get the best content, the most like to build an episode. I'll do like a good interview with the fighter and with at least one of their coaches, if not a couple of their coaches. And then I kind of build the episode around those interviews and use the B-roll to kind of lay over the top of it, and then just kind of put the story together. And then after that, the hard part is getting it out there. Like that's the part I'm not very good at. It's like getting it to people, the marketing, but that's how I go about producing it.
It's funny because one of my questions I wrote down was about marketing. So I want to get to that later, because it seems like you've done a good job, because you have a pretty decent following that's growing on YouTube and on Instagram. But I want to ask about interviews. I saw your most recent episode. It was about, I forget his name, but the golf he took
Anthony
you golfing.
Smith,
and yeah. That was really cool. And
Thank you. Yeah.
Something I thought was like a detail that I noticed was like, some of these guys had like scars on their face. Some of their noses were like completely misshapen because of like all the training. With interviewing, what is your goal with an interview? Do you have like an idea of what questions you want to ask, or do you just kind of freestyle and then like put the story together later?
Yeah, I definitely have a goal. So anytime you're working with like a high-level athlete, like world-class athletes, like there's so many people like kind of vying for their time, and they're already like generally stretched thin with like the amount of time they have, that I always want to be respectful and go in with a plan of like, this is what I need. And I'd love to sit there and talk to them for 2 hours, but I generally try to keep it, 20 to 30 minutes. And if they want to keep talking, I let them, but I try to keep it short. I try to keep it just to like kind of what I need to be able to build the story I'm trying to build, so that I'm not taking up too much of their time. So with Anthony, I went in, I had like quite a list of questions, just kind of, I want to first have them answer the questions and tell the story of kind of like a little bit of their background, who they are, if someone's watching it that doesn't know anything about them, like, how long they've been fighting, kind of where they've been, their credentials, that kind of thing, so that when someone watches it, they can kind of see who this person is. And then I try to tell, like, with this series, Homegrown, or with Front Range Fighter, it's like, how did you get to Colorado? Why are you in Colorado as opposed to Florida or California or wherever else? Kind of like, why are you here? And then how is this place helping you grow? Like, what has changed in your development as a fighter since you've been here? Your relationship with your coaches, those type of things. And then telling, who you're fighting next, why you're here training so hard right now, because you have a fight. When is it? Who's it against? That kind of thing. And I want someone to watch the episode to be able to go away, like, knowing a little bit about the person, knowing, like, kind of what they're working towards right now with their next fight, knowing about, like, their motivations, like their family or fame or fortune, like whatever it is. And so I go in, with a list of questions like that. And it's generally more of a conversation. Like, I try to keep it a conversation. I don't ever try to have fighters be like, I'm never like, hey, tell me exactly this. It's like, talk about this, and just, why, asking a lot of why, like, why do you do this? And what do you think about this? I never want it to be too pointed or try to put words in their mouth. But that's kind of how I approach those.
You have like a goal for the channel? Like, is that, do you want to be like full-time posting on YouTube, or? Yeah,
that kind of has been the goal. It's like, I've been really lucky because, like, my wife and I own a really successful, like, media business. She does photography, I do video, and we produce a lot, and, like, the business does well. And honestly, like, financially, doing these shows is just a drain. Like, it's not paid me, like, hardly anything. Like, I'm not making money from it. But yeah, the goal is to, like, build the channel up to a point where one of two things happens. Either I start getting so many views and, like, sponsors want to come on board that I'm actually making a living doing it, or possibly like it starts to get noticed and like maybe leads to a different job, like a job with the UFC or a large promotion or something like that, doing this kind of content where I could actually be paid doing it, you know? But yeah, it would be awesome to get the channel to a point where it's averaging hundreds of thousands of views, making good money, and then there's more opportunities that come from it. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, because as I branch into this world, like one of the questions I really have about documentary filmmaking is that like, could you like, how can you push the boundaries of independent documentary filmmaking? Like, there's not much of a community there. There's not much of like, there's not like, if you look on the filmmaking hashtags on like TikTok and Instagram, there's like nothing about documentary filmmaking. Unless you look documentary, hashtag documentary filmmaking, and then you might get a little something, but it's probably like just a media company that's like adding that in their tags. You know what I mean? Yeah. Why do you think there's no like glamour in it? That like why, like when kids go to film school and they're like super hyped about like getting on narrative sets and being PAs and like production design and all this, why is there no hype into documentary filmmaking?
That's a good question. I mean, I've honestly never even considered it before. I guess like on the surface, it's like what's more glamorous and flashy, like the end product of when you do like this epic styled shoot where it's directed and you have epic lighting and like awesome music, like that's gonna kind of just on the surface draw more eyes to it because it's more flashy. It takes more thought and more like insight and I guess intelligence to really delve into and appreciate documentary, which is probably why it's not the most popular genre, because like it doesn't hold it'll hold your attention if it's done right, but it won't necessarily like, it's not a 60-second fast moving like clip, you know. It's not gonna like, in our generation people's attention spans are so short. I don't know that there's that many people whose attentions are going to be held by a, you know, an hour-long doc or whatever, unless it's just epic and insane. But that would be my guess. I don't know, attention spans.
So do you just think it's more like there's more glory in making a narrative that's like well, yeah, I guess it's kind of like the people's attention is being competed for by like TikTok and like Marvel and Fortnite. Right. Yeah. It's hard to like have like a sit down interview and make it interesting, but I feel like there's room for that. Yeah. Like I feel like documentary is kind of stagnant in a way. Because it's lack of funding or lack of interest.
I will say that it's hard to, especially as an independent and without funding and stuff, it's hard to like get really interesting quality content consistently because it takes a story and it takes like a personality. So that's why I was so lucky with Homegrown Fighter with Bryce, and the reason I think it's so successful is he's just hilarious and just has a natural personality that people want to watch. Like everything he does without even trying is funny. So something like that, when you have that kind of like personality and that draw, I think it can be very compelling. And like I can't even tell you how many messages I get on my YouTube of people who are just like annoyed or whatever that I'm not working with him right now, and it's just because he broke his hand in his last fight. He lives 18 hours from me. Like, it's just not convenient. Like, there's dudes who live 20 minutes from me. I can go film with them much more easily. But people want to see the really interesting content with him, you know, his personality. So I think there is room for it. I think there's room for documentary to become like, I mean, look at like The Last Dance. Like, there are ones that like stick out in pop culture and like become super popular, but you have to have those characters and you have to have those like super compelling, interesting like story plots and personalities to make it happen, I think.
Dude, I looked up like the highest grossing documentaries of all time, and they consisted of like Fahrenheit 9/11, the Michael Jackson This Is It documentary. Was like, I think that was the highest, and that was like $109 million in the box office, which is like nuts to think about. It's like a blockbuster.
It is. Yeah.
But Tiger King, like the way they equate box office from Netflix to like the theater, they said if it was in theaters, it would have done like 300 million.
Wow, I believe it. And I think that was a product of, again, personality. Like that dude and the woman, Carol or whatever her name was, like so many personalities, but also I think it had the luxury of the timing too. It came out right when the pandemic hit and everyone was staying home watching it. So but yeah, it was great, yeah.
But like to me, that once I saw that, I'm like, okay, there's room for this to be a mainstream thing. And like, I feel like that's kind of what I want to do, is like try to make it cooler almost, like,
for sure. Yeah.
Cause that's where you get like, if you can get I think if you can get like a Gary V for documentary filmmaking, like how he made entrepreneurship so cool, you can make like documentary filmmaking just as cool and with as many eyes.
Yeah.
So kind of to segue back to marketing, what are you doing? How have you grown your channel so big?
The two things. One was I put out a video about 5 years ago that got 6 million views, and that brought me most of my followers. It was a random thing I did. It was I had a friend who did BMX, and I had a friend who did parkour, and I set up like it was kind of narrative sort of, but it was also live action. It was just they did a race across campus, and it's for some reason it got 6 million views. That was a big thing. And then the second, what I really kind of built and got loyal following was the stuff I did with Bryce with Homegrown Fighter. And again, it goes back to his personality. And I just had I was blessed to like have that relationship with him where he had this amazing personality and I had the skills to kind of package it all together and put it out in a way people wanted to see. It was just like a great, combination. I love working with him. So those two things. And I think like other little things help, like he had a couple big performances in the UFC. His Instagram, like his manager and I started an Instagram page for him, and it got like 200,000 followers. So I was able to kind of like put the content on there to like reach more people. And then just, whenever he performs well, people want to see stuff with him. So it's not so much me. It's like if I wasn't there producing the content, it obviously wouldn't be seen. But if he wasn't doing what he was doing as well, it wouldn't be attracting as many views. So yeah, I was lucky, but yeah, the work and
the minds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I think it's kind of interesting. I mean, I'm pretty sure I actually found your channel because of Will Harris. He shouted you out one time.
Yeah, he's cool.
You tagged him and he
for
tagged
sure. I gotta like give him props too. Like I talked to him a lot about like because going back to what we were talking about with like filming with fighters and like trying to earn a living from it. He had a very successful business as well. He was doing weddings, making good money doing weddings, and that was funding him doing Anatomy of a Fighter for the first couple of years or the first year or so until it got big. So like it's hard for, your average 25-year-old dude who has $500 in the bank and is just like working job to job to just spend 40 hours a week working with fighters and putting content out when you don't have money to live on from another source. Like it's really hard to do. Like I wouldn't be able to do it if we didn't have a successful business doing weddings and other things, and he couldn't have done it if he didn't have his successful business on the side. So it's really hard for just anyone to do it. But yeah, Will's been great. Like he's kind of answered a lot of questions of like how he grew his channel and like developing relationships with gyms and fighters and stuff like that. So yeah, big shout out to Will Harris. He's cool.
Yeah, that's actually fast. I didn't know he was like supporting it from a side business in the.
Yeah, at first he was doing weddings and making good money, and that's what we've been doing too. It's ironic, but
yeah, so actually I dropped. Well, I didn't drop out. I graduated high school like 2 years ago, and then I just started. And the way I've made most of my money is like through just like I'll get a couple clients, and then we just do like a monthly thing.
Okay.
But I'm starting to think like, do you recommend doing weddings? Like, I'm starting to think that might be a good.
It's it depends. Like, I would never suggest doing something just because you can make money at it. I think you need to, one, enjoy it, and two, be good at it, or at least have the potential to grow into being good at it. But yeah, like it is a good way to make money, and it's a good like kind of business to have. I wouldn't have been doing them probably if my wife wasn't. Like she's a photographer. She's really passionate about working with couples, doing like engagements and weddings and all that kind of thing. And so by default, I was always kind of with her doing that. And it was something I could do and not hate. I wouldn't say I like love it, but I enjoy, a lot of it. And it's a good way to make money. So yeah, if you have an interest in it and you think you could be pretty good at it, then yeah, it's definitely worth a shot. I think a lot of videographers have done weddings at some point because it's a good way to make money, but it's a really good like way to test yourself. because it's fast paced and you only get one shot at it. Like,
right.
There's
Which
moments.
Is great to transfer to documentary skills.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I think that's helped me, honestly. Like with documentaries, shooting weddings, everything's fast paced, and you get one shot, and you don't exactly know what's when moments are going to happen. So you have to be ready for them. And documentaries the same way. So there's a lot of parallels. But yeah, it's a good way to get reps in.
Totally. Yeah. I was thinking, because I would love to like find a way to support myself from my own like documentaries, like what I'm doing in Long Island.
Yeah.
But also like I think there's probably a market for influencers or small businesses to have their own documentaries made about them and like offer that as a service. So I think that's something I'm trying to get ready for.
For sure. Something that I've done a little bit on the side too is working with businesses doing what are called like brand stories, and it's sort of it's like a hybrid between a documentary and like a promo where you're just kind of telling the story of the brand and why a client should care, why someone should care about this company. And yeah, it's a fun thing to do too. Like I like doing brand stories.
I might steal that from you.
Yeah, go for it, man.
I'll give you credits though.
It's okay. I'm not the one who created it. Like,
okay, cool.
Brand stories or something. They're out there, but they're a good hybrid type of thing. I enjoy them.
Yeah, I think that would just be cool. Like, if figure out a way to full time just make documentaries.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let me see. Would you ever consider making like a feature-length documentary or like an hour-long documentary?
Yeah, for sure. It would have to be the right thing. I've actually thought about it more and more because I keep ending up with docu-series episodes that are like 15 minutes long. I was like, dang, just 4 of these and I have a feature. It's like it's not that much longer. But yeah, it would have to be the right thing. But I've always planned when Bryce wins the featherweight title for the UFC, like I want to be there, I want to be documenting all of it, and then I want to put together a feature-length doc on it with all this like footage that I've got through the years. And that's one I definitely want to do. But if something else popped up and was another opportunity, I'd definitely be down for it.
Yeah, because like actually I have an idea. If the Manimal documentary, John goes by Manimal, the guy who I'm making my documentary
Okay.
about.
Yeah.
If that goes well, I was thinking about trying to make a series and like pitch it to a streamer about
nice.
Like the history of law, MMA, and like how it's like Ray Longo and like some of those guys have like made a huge impact on like the UFC.
Yeah. Yep.
That'd be cool if we could collab on that if that ever came to fruition.
That'd be cool, yeah, for sure. Yeah. We get the budget for it, let's do it.
Yeah. I don't know what, like, have you ever gotten budgets for documentaries and done anything like that?
I have a friend who's a producer who has worked a lot in like kind of like narrative podcasting, that kind of thing, but he's also worked with like companies who like produce films for like Netflix and stuff. And I was kind of like kicking the idea around with him about like homegrown, like doing a documentary series for like Netflix or something. And yeah, there's some major budgets, like million plus, like for a season, for stuff like that. It just kind of depends on the size of your crew and how much you're wanting to take home at the end of it, because there's so much like production costs that go into it. But yeah, like there's some budgets. Yeah.
Do you think, like, let's say you got like a $500,000 budget, do you think that you would want to hire a big crew for that, or would you want to like maybe bring 1 or 2 people and kind of basically do it the same you've been doing?
Yeah, I would keep it small for sure, especially if I was working with Bryce. Like the relationship, the bond that we have is super tight and special. It's like I wouldn't want 15 people running around with like lighting and all that. No, I'd keep it simple, and I know I could get good quality like with just me and maybe another buddy or 2. Yeah.
You've proven that for sure.
Yeah, thanks.
And you're shooting on the C200?
Yeah, I most of the content with Bryce was on the C100 Mark II until about last July, I think, is when I got my C200. Yeah, and it's a beast.
Just bought the C100 Mark II.
Dude, it's great. It's a freaking great camera. It is awesome. And like
Go ahead.
It's funny too because it has a 4K sensor. Like if I ever need to get a few clips on it and scale them up to 4K, I honestly don't notice that much of a loss of quality. Like it's a good camera.
Yeah, and like the thing I really love about it, I rented it for when I went to New York the first time for Manimal, and just because I was like, I want to try to use XLR mics and stuff and get better quality. That didn't even work, but I got to use the camera, and it was only like $300 for the week, and then I liked it. Black Friday rolls around, and I'm like, this camera shoots better quality than my EOS R, like in my opinion. Has much smaller file sizes and is like very portable. It's good for exactly what I want to do with documentary. So I'm like, why, if I get this, I don't have to buy a new laptop to edit the 4K files on. Like, why not just use that? And now it kind of changed my philosophy. Like, you don't need the high, like you need the camera that's perfect for you, not the highest quality camera.
100%. Yeah, I'm glad that you've like learned that early on too, because that's something like it takes people a long time. Like my, I mean, when I started filming, like, my process was always like every year or two, like kind of selling and upgrading. It's like it's necessary to a point, but once you get like something solid that works for you, like ticks 9 out of the 10 boxes you need it to, it's like, you know, I can work with this. I can make it happen. And yeah, that's a solid camera. What was the XLR issue you had?
For some reason, it just wouldn't work. And like I borrowed a Sennheiser and then like a long cord, and I needed like a 3-inch cord so I could,
for sure.
But it was all like this last minute, like, hey, I know you have a Sennheiser, can I borrow it? Because I just rented the C100 completely off plan, like so it just like didn't work for some reason with that one camera, but it works with the one I have now. And then I ended up getting it on, I got a used one on Black Friday, and it was like super cheap. So
yeah, mine was actually used too. I've still got it. It's on the shelf right over there. It's a good camera. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's dope. So cool. You're a Canon guy.
Yeah, I am. I've always been Canon. When I was in high school, I had like a crappy like Panasonic camcorder. It was like my first thing. But then as soon as I started, like when I went to college, it was right when like, this would have been years ago, so I don't know if you would have even been aware of it, but like there was a time when people first started using DSLRs for video, and like no one had really done it before, but then they realized they could, and there's like this jump in quality. And that's when I went to college, was right when that was starting. And so when I went, I didn't even know what a DSLR was. I had never seen one. I'd never touched one. I was like, oh, that's a photo camera. Like, why would I use that for video? But then I started and I was like, this is awesome. So then I bought like a Canon Rebel, and then got like a 6D, and then a 5D, and then like a couple like 7Ds and another 5. Like it just kind of kept. I've always loved the Canon ecosystem. I love Canon lenses. Like Canon glass is amazing. I love the color science that Canon has. So like I switched to Sony A7S Mark II for like 3 months in like 2016, and then switched right back to Canon because I just like I love Canon colors. Like it's hard to beat. Yeah.
It's also hard to like leave Canon if you wanted to, like, because that new Sony camera that came out is like impressive. You know what I mean? Like,
which one? Like the
A7S3, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
it's like shoots in 6K. Like
yeah.
But
did you say you're on the EOS R? Is that what you have as well?
I have EOS R, and then I have the C100 Mark II, and then I have a couple.
Is the R the one that has 8K?
No, that's the R5. I have the R.
Oh,
the
gotcha.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about selling that to my buddy, and then just getting like a GH5 or something to replace it.
Yeah, those are solid. Yeah.
Yeah, just because it'll cover all the other bases that the C1... Like the EOS R and the C100 are basically the same camera. So I don't need the EOS R.
Just in different forms. Yeah.
But I still need a gimbal camera, so... But then I'd have 120 on the GH5 and stuff, so that would kind of be better. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Cool, man. Well, I don't want to hold you for too long. This was a pleasure. Hopefully we can keep talking more. I'm definitely going to be checking out your videos more and in your DMs and stuff. Hopefully,
sweet.
We can work together.
Sounds good. Feel free to message me anytime. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then just keep grinding.
Yep. You too. Awesome.
Thanks, man.
Good talking to you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.